Hey, it's Jason. Hey, in this video, I'm just going to do a recap of the stream that I did yesterday and the progress that was made on the application. Uh, the the build is progressing. We remember from Monday I set up all of the models, and now in this stream, I just wanted to focus really entirely on the front end and making the app look and feel sort of the way that I had in mind. So I'm just going to play this at 800% speed and go through and try to talk you through what it was that I was actually doing and what was going through my mind. So here you can see I'm just tinkering with some of the styles and text just on the front page and the landing page. I deleted this this whole page yesterday, or in the first stream when I was playing with the application. So I really had to just start this whole welcome page from scratch. So you can see we're just working on the welcome bit here. What else? So I'm just putting in some buttons, a couple of login and register buttons. And the CSS package that I work with, or CSS framework that I work with, is called TailwindCSS. It means that you can pretty quickly and easily just use utility classes to tweak your design and get it looking the way you want. So here you can see on this page here, I wanted to just sort of understand the way, I'll just move this over. So I wanted to understand the way the application was laid out. So I'm sort of poking around here and having a look. And also I go back over to our planning tasks, and I just restructured the features. I just nested features and objects within each other. Just sort of puts it into a way that's sort of easier for my brain to understand when I'm building. You know, just thinking about the relationships each model has to each other within the system. Where are we? What am I doing here? That's right. Yeah, I'm playing with the dashboard user interface. So I went in there just to see what the logo did. I went into an old project and just updated this logo for the system just to a little orange splash that I like to use in my projects. For whatever reason, I always just like using orange splashes. Oh, also, I'm using hero icons here. VueJS has, I mean, there's, you can use icons from everywhere, but the hero icons for VueJS, that's a free to use icon package, which is really handy. And I also noticed that they use that with the Tailwind UI as well. So I paid for Tailwind UI, and you'll in this stream you'll see me just reach for that to put some styling on the inputs that I use. So here, just with this, so with this is the editor. What I wanted to do was essentially make it so when you're editing the document, it wanted it to look like it would on the page, but I don't think that's going to work. I'd love to be able to have the whole application as just like a real single page, so single page user interface. But I'm starting to think that might be actually more difficult to do it as a single page. You know, simplicity is in fact really complicated and hard to pull off. So I might end up doing it a slightly different way. I've just been sort of kicking that idea the idea about how I'm going to lay out the application and the user interface for the last couple of days. And here you can see I'm using the Tailwind UI for the inputs. It's a really great package, absolutely worth paying for the Tailwind UI. This saves so much time, especially when you're spinning up a project and prototyping. If you can just go and grab a bunch of code that makes your page look good, you know, you get a good professional looking UI. That's what you want. I was checking to see what aria described by meant here, and so you can see that there is some relationships to the elements, which is what I just made programmatically. So you can see as well, I put a text input in, and I made that a component. So it's sort of important to componentize your inputs early, I think. And you can also see that I'm here with these props. I'm putting in, you know, a text input has a whole bunch of variables that are going to change the way it acts and behaves, and those are just passed into this component as properties. So we can see here we've got label, name, type, help, error, value, placeholder. What else did I chuck in there as well? That type, I wouldn't rely on that because type seems like it's a, yeah, so you can see when I had type in there, it was putting a border around the div, and I didn't want that. So you really need to imply input type, because I think type is HTML, like a protected term. So input type, and you'll see that I utilize that input type to change this to a date input in a just a little bit later on. So yeah, putting in a couple of these things here. So I was really just putting these in to test and make sure it looks right. I don't think I'm going to end up using these individual error messages on each input, and you'll see that I just find a sort of a quick hack to get enough user feedback when things break. So here you'll also see that I just go into an old code base as well, just to look up how you emit a value, because you know, you don't necessarily need to read the docs because I already know how to emit the value. I just wanted to copy that across to get it right first time. So, you know, your input is emitting the event up to the parent, and then that parent is doing something with it in the next spot. So text area, you can see I made a copy. I just created a text area component. And all I do in that text area component is really just change the input from a input to a text area input. Where are we? Yeah, so I've got text area input. And there's also a property called rows as well. And it's a bit funny. It really wants you to pass in a piece of data. So you really need to bind the rows value and just specify a number there for it to work. I was looking for the date picker here, so I went into Tailwind UI just to see if I could find a date picker, but turns out I could just pass in date as the input type, and that has the same effect. You can see me just testing the date function, testing the way that dates are laid out for the value that I was passing through. Cool, so I've got rows, they look right. Right, here we are. So now I'm going to pass through some employers and see if I can start binding information from the back end to the way it's displayed on the front end. So in the first stream, I I was tinkering and created a couple of objects in the database. So I've created a couple of employers in the database. And so I'm relying on that to be passed through here. So you can see we've got 4 employers, and now they're starting to show up. So then I create a card as well, create individual employer cards for them to show up, put a border around it. I don't know if border is the way to go. I might just put maybe put different colors for the background. I'm not a great designer. Just understand some of the basics. Okay, here I am. So this update employer function, I've just given it a route here in my routes file, and pointing it through to the employer controller. And we'll create the method on the controller here. And again, you can see I just went in, copied it over. There's no sense slowing down when the code is easy enough to find. You can just copy it across and then tweak it to whatever works. So where are we? That's right. I had it at update value, and it was just spamming updates to the server. You don't want it to send an update to the server on every keystroke. You just want it to update when there is a change to the paragraph. So that's why here I'm playing with it a little bit just to confirm that data is coming through. I like to just refresh my memory of what the request looks like and what is in fact being passed through. When the data comes through, I take the request and I just turn that into an object so that it's easy to manipulate the data. So you can see there, I've got data equals object. So it's creating a new object, and you're taking the request and the employer that I'm passing through in the request. And then you turn that into an object in PHP, and then that way it's easy enough to just access elements of that object when you are, when you're essentially going through here. Now, I do, I check all of this, and then eventually I will validate the inputs. But for now, I'm just doing it the simple way, just to get the connection working. There we are. Just chuck a validate command on there so that the name is required. So the description can be left blank. And I just changed the rules as well. So you can have 100 characters for the name of the employer and 250 for the description. And then from here, we're also just going to start checking and playing with the errors as they come back as well. Yeah, I messed this up here. I don't know what I was thinking. I did it makes sense to attach an errors and the errors to the employer if there are errors, but I've just done it for a response. But Axios is going to treat a 200 or an OK response as a response, whereas if it's going to be a failure, like a 500 or a 400, that's going to be an error, and so it would only be catching error. So essentially, I was just putting that emp.errors equals r.data.errors. I was putting that really in the wrong spot, and it slowed me down here. So, what I really wanted to do instead was just go emp.errors equals e, essentially. It equals that error. Whatever the error is, send that through, connect it as an error object. Which I figure out here, I went back through my another code base and just checked to see, well, what am I doing? I've solved this problem before, And you can see here it starts to work, and I've now got the error connected to that object. So that solved that little problem. And now I'm going to start passing those responses through to the view or the DOM. So you can see here the name field is required and one more error. So now there is a whole error object, but I don't know. I wasn't in the mood to go solving deeper problems for errors. So what I really wanted to do was just sort of get near enough is good enough. For this particular build, in this project, near enough is good enough in this case. So I thought, all right, well, what I'm going to do is just let just that message speak for the errors. Because, you can see me here, I'm tinkering around with a couple of ideas, but I'm not solving it. I didn't feel like reading the docs. I know I've solved this problem in the past. I don't want to go and watch a YouTube tutorial in the middle of a live stream. So I was just trying to figure things out based on sort of what my previous experience was, and sort of, I probably could have gone and read the Axios documentation, easy enough. But then also, like, you're getting back a single error object, but you are not necessarily, like, maybe if I was doing the text input in text area as a form, so if I had it set up as like a form object, that might have made more sense, because then I could just go through and attach those errors to what each of those, what the name of each of those objects is. But because of the way I'm doing it here, I'm just putting that update employer as a function on each. Yeah, I'm putting it on a function as each. There's a different way to do that. There's probably a smarter way to do that, but I'm just doing it the lazy way in this application, just to get things working. Yeah, and so you can see here I'm starting to put a couple of things in here. So I went and grabbed this spinner. I just discovered this loading.io. That's awesome. All these wonderful little spinners, and you can see I put it into a component. So I put the word spinner in there just to see it. You can just go in and change the color in the style, and I changed the size here. Yeah, 30, 28 looks about right. Now, it doesn't spin that fast in real life. This is sped up 800%. But that sort of matched what I was going for. And then you can see here, I'm going to tinker with a couple of different ways to display these errors. So you can see, I've got error employer information hasn't been saved because because of some error. I've got saving and saved notices, and I want that to be fairly, I think I could probably turn this little piece of code that I'm writing here, this little error code, I reckon I could turn that into a component as well. So that's right, I'll move this over so you can see what I'm doing here. So you can see I've got this little saved view here, got the spinner when I'm loading. I'm checking the network, making sure everything runs well. Yeah, got a little bit of margin. All right, so that's starting to look nice. And it's that's right. At this point, I decided I needed to put on some music as well. It was the stream was a ghost town, so I didn't have anyone to talk to. So this is why I thought I'd jump on here and come back in with a brief recap for this. That's right. I also wanted to I was a bit confused about the way to do it. There's a components folder in there. I'm making components folder in the pages. Uh, I don't know if I'm happy with that. I think I might go and play around with that. But that main components folder also houses a lot of the jetstream components, and it would sort of be nicer if it was in a jetstream specific folder, and maybe that's something I can do. I'll just refactor that, chuck it all into a jetstream folder, and then that way I can put components in there. And yeah, so because I moved a bunch of these things into their own components, so I've created a component for an employer card. So a card is going to be a little UI element that contains the employer. And so because of that, copying across all of the imports, when I componentized that, it made it break here. And you can see I'm reading my error messages just to check and figure out what it was. And it was because it was self-referential. So I was referencing the component in the component itself, which is going to break things. Yeah, so here, actually, that's right. I had a major problem here. Like my Vue DevTools just was not updating. So either the application itself, so either the back end was not passing through the roles. So you can see here, actually, I'm just going to pause this. You can see here, I've got on that line 39, I've got employers equals user employers with roles. So I wanted to get roles attached to the employer. And so you can see I'm playing in the tinkering route, because it should be showing up and just attaching that roles. And you can see on line 47, I've got the same line. It's essentially exactly the same line on both. It's using that with and then get. It should have been picking it up, but for whatever reason, it was not attaching it in my front end. So when I go back over to the view, back in the actual dashboard, it just, yeah, I was basically scratching my head here. I couldn't figure out why it was not attaching the roles. It should have been showing up. So my frantic clicking, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I don't know if it was just like a browser issue. Maybe the browser was just caching the response. And in fact, you can see here as well, like when I'm going to the dashboard, I'm passing employers through. So on line 44, you can see return inertia with employers as employers, which means that in the Vue DevTools here, you should be able to see hang on, do I get a or don't? I don't know how to put a here we go. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. So here, I would expect that I would get an employers object, because these are native jetstream and inertia objects that will always get sent through. But what I wanted was a employers object, and it should have been popping up there. So that was a bit tedious, and There we go. All right, starting again. Let's see. I'll go through and see if I can figure out what the hell's going on here. Because yeah, I was bashing my head against the wall. So as soon as I figure out how to get this to show up, see, employers was showing up in user, but it shouldn't have been. Like there was no reason that the employers should have been showing up in the user. So essentially, it just seemed like it was just a cache issue. It was not using. It wasn't actually refreshing the front end application. And there we go, and it pops up. So now I get the employers and the roles are attached. Beautiful. All right. Well, that's it. That was basically the end of the thing. I got frustrated there, and I decided that I would leave the stream. So thanks for watching. I guess I'll see you in the next one. Also, you should probably go and check me out on Twitch if you do like watching actual live coding sessions, because I'm going to try to finish this entire application live on Twitch. But if you do like this particular video and these recaps, make sure you drop a comment, let me know that you like it or just like the video so I get a bit of feedback and understand if this is something that is even worth my time to keep making. But look, in any case, I am going to keep posting this and some other stream recaps on YouTube so that it's there if you want to follow along as you're building your application. All right, cool. Cheers.